Hello guys and welcome back to our channel. Today we will cover the Vienna position, and it's the position starting after d4, d5, c4, e6, knight to f3, knight to f6, and knight to c3, and now black takes on c4. There is another move order to reach this position which you should know about, which is after d4, black goes knight to f6. Now we go c4, e6, and here it's important to start with knight to f3, because if you start with knight to c3, black can go bishop to b4 and play Nimzo Indian defense, which we would like to avoid, so we start with knight to f3. And now after d5, we go knight to c3. And if black here goes bishop to b4, this is the Ragozin defense, which we will cover in a future video. But here we are interested in the Vienna position, which starts after d capture on c4. And here I'd like to go for the move e4 and take the whole center with these two pawns. You can, for example, play more solidly with a move like e3, but here after a6, bishop capture on c4 and b5, bishop to d3. And here, of course, it's a solid position, but black doesn't have that many questions to answer. He has a solid development plan with the bishop to b7, the other bishop on d6 and castle, and his position tends to be very solid and you can't crack it that easily. So instead here, we go for the move e4. And this is obviously a more aggressive way to play, and of course it entails more risk. But if you know your moves and you know what you are doing in this position, you are going to be fine. Here the most challenging move for black is to go bishop to b4. Now black is pinning our knight on c3 and he's attacking indirectly our pawn on e4. He can simply capture on c3 and then grab our pawn on e4, or he can immediately grab the pawn. And here you have the option, for example, to go bishop to g5 and pin this knight. And this is playable and you can try it, of course, but here I like the move bishop capture on c4. And this involves a pawn sacrifice on e4, but as we are going to see, we have an easy development plan and we have more than enough compensation. Let's first see what happens if black, for example, declines to take the pawn and simply castle. This is obviously not good, simply because we are going to go e5, knight to d5 and queen to c2, and we have a very strong center. We are going to castle our king short, and we go, for example, bishop to d2 and rook to d1, and black doesn't have that much compensation for all this space that white have. So black here has to bite the bullet and just take the pawn. And now we castle short, giving up another pawn. And black has two ways to capture. He can capture with the bishop or he can capture with the knight. The correct move is to capture with the knight, and we'll look at this afterwards. But let's see what happens if black captures with the bishop. Now after c capture, knight capture, and queen to b3, the knight here is attacked. And there is only two escaping squares. So let's first see what happens if the knight goes to e4. Now we go rook to c1, hitting the knight. And if, for example, knight to d6, after bishop to g5, black's position is just lost. f6, and now bishop capture on e6. If f capture on g5, now we capture the bishop with a check. And after king to f8, bishop capture on b7, knight capture on b7, and queen capture on b7, knight to d7, and queen to b4 check. Here we can see that material is even, but the white king is safe and the black king is in the middle of the board and is going to simply be checkmated. So obviously this is bad for black. So let's go back. Here, for example, black can capture with a bishop. Now after rook capture, king to f8. Now there is this lovely move, knight to f5. And the point here is that we are threatening a checkmate on f7 after the rook captured the knight. And of course black can't capture the knight because the queen will drop. So for example here, if f capture on g5, rook capture on d6, and now if black captures with a pawn, this is checkmate. And if queen to e8, rook to e6, queen to d8, now queen to f3 check, and this is obviously going to end in checkmate. Black has to give up his queen, and this is the end. So here, knight to e4 is bad for black, so let's see if black retreats his knight to d5. which is a little bit more resilient, but either way, black's position is bad. Now we go bishop to a3, stopping the black king from castling. Now for example, knight to c6, threatening to hit both the bishop and the queen. Now we go rook to e1, knight to a5 and queen to a4. Knight back to c6, and now queen to b5. And now we are threatening to win a piece simply because of this pin. So black must retreat his knight, knight to b6, and now bishop to b3, a3 and queen to h5. And the threat here is to capture with the bishop because the pawn is pinned. So now for example, after knight to e7, bishop capture, rook capture, g6, and queen to e5. Pawn capture on e6 and queen capture on h8. King to d7 and queen capture on h7. And again, we reach a position where material is even, but white has the attack and has the more powerful pieces. Here the knight is pinned and the queen is stuck defending the knight, and also knight to e5 is in the air, and the rook also can join the attack, and black's position is almost collapsing. So instead here black should capture with the knight, and now after b capture on c3, black's move is to retreat the bishop. But first let's see why black cannot capture on c3. If black for example captures on c3 here, now after rook to b1, the rook now is sitting on a fantastic file, and also we are threatening to go bishop to a3 and keep the black king in the center. Now after knight c6, black now is attacking this pawn 3 times, but he simply can't win it because here we go rook to b3, hitting the black bishop. The bishop now must retreat to a bad diagonal, and bishop to h3 will come, and black has a lot of questions to answer. But first let's see why black cannot capture on d4. If bishop capture on d4, now we go rook to d3, e5 by black, and now knight capture on e5, knight capture and rook capture, queen to f6, and now rook to f4. If for example black retreats his rook, now rook to e1, f6, bishop to b2, and we can see that black's position is just collapsing. If black for example removes his queen from this file, queen to d6, and also offering a queen trade, we simply decline this trade of course, and we go queen to h5 check, now g6, and now bishop capture on e5. And now black cannot capture our queen because we will capture the black queen with check. And if black captures the bishop, now after rook captures, the black king is just going to get mated in the center. So this is bad for black. So here black shouldn't take the pawn on c3, and he simply has to retreat his bishop. The reason here why black retreats his bishop is because we are setting our pieces to achieve a kingside attack, and this bishop is needed to defend the dark squares around the black king. And here we continue our development with bishop to f4, black castles, and now rook to e1, knight to d7, queen to c2, and knight to f3. Black here brought his knight to f6 in order to defend this h7 weakness. And now we go bishop to d3, bishop to d7, and now knight to e5. And here of course we are down a pawn, but our development is much faster than black's development. We have very strong pressure on the h7, b1 diagonal. Our rook is fantastically placed on the e file. Our knight also is impressive on e5. And we have many ideas in this position. For example, we can play for a rook left in order to increase the pressure on the h7 pawn. Also, we may consider doubling up on the e file, and then later on start to play for the d5 break. And black's position can be very dangerous, and he can immediately find himself checkmated if he's not careful. Okay guys, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, feel free to write them down below in the comment section, and I will do my best to answer all of them. And if you're not subscribed to my channel, please hit that subscribe button and also turn on the notification bell to get our latest updates. Okay guys, thank you for watching and see you in the next video.